Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Podcast with your host, Jeff Lopes. Jeff has over 2 decades experience as a serial entrepreneur, building brands like Kimura from his home basement to a multi-million-dollar global brand that has sold over 250,000 pairs of boxing gloves. Jeff's here to educate, guide, and drive you on the process of bringing your ideas and dreams to reality with the inspiring stories from some of the top business minds.
Welcome to episode number 101 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Ken Joslin. Ken Joslin is the founder of Growth Stack Drive, a Grant Cardonian licensee, real estate business, tons of layers here. Great conversation. Sit back, everyone, and enjoy. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on with us today across the big smile there. The most handsome man on TV here, Ken Joslin. What's up, brother?
What's up, my friend?
How's life treating you, man?
Man, I am blessed, dude. I am blessed.
I always start our podcast by letting the audience get to know what you're currently up to, what you're currently doing, and then we're just let the conversation go and have a great conversation today. So what are you up to?
Yeah, so I love helping people win, dude. Like my passion, I get up in the morning, dude. I love helping people win. I do that in a couple ways. I own the Ken Joslin team, which is a real estate team in Birmingham, Alabama, and Atlanta, Georgia. We specialize in residential commercial real estate. So I've got agents in both states that are hustling around the clock to be able to help people with their real estate needs. We don't want people to feel like real estate is their new part-time job. We want to take the worry and anxiety out of their real estate transactions. So I do that. And then I own a little brand called Growth Stack Drive. I'm the CEO. It's a brand that we created last year with my Cardone licensee where we coach business owners. We do that in group settings. We do that through online courses. We do that on a one-on-one basis, and I also do that with live events and through my own podcast.
So there's a lot of layers here. Let's dive into your real estate aspect. When did you start that? This is your own brokerage, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so no, I'm actually with EXP right now. So
okay.
From 2000, in the mid 2000s, like 01 to about 08, 09, I was a top mortgage broker. I was actually a broker, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, 2 locations. I was the number 1 wholesale broker for SunTrust and Countrywide 4 years in a row. Both companies, we were cranking them out back in the day. Yeah. And then, so out of the past 25 years, I spent half of that in full-time vocational ministry, pastoring churches, planting churches, and the other half in the real estate game. And then for about 4.5, 5 years, we've been coaching business owners and ministry leaders.
So, okay, there's so many layers there. Let's go back there. So the real estate wise now, where are you state wise? Are you just in one state or you're more than one state with the real estate?
Georgia and Alabama. So I've got teams in Birmingham, which is the largest city in Alabama. And then in Metro Atlanta, Northeast Atlanta, in Metro Atlanta. So I've got agents there as well.
And now let's go back to the pastoring. When did you start pastoring? And when did you become a pastor? What age were you? And how did that evolve to where you are now?
Yeah, so I gave my life to Christ when I was 25 years old in 1993. I went into full-time vocational ministry in 1996 doing youth ministry. Had about a handful of kids, brand new church, handful of kids. Caught an unbelievable vision, got around some really, really great mentors, caught an unbelievable vision. We grew that from 5 kids to about 350, built out a huge youth facility, 7,200 square feet, raised about $70,000 in the span of about 2 or 3 months. Just unbelievable vision, grew that thing to several hundred students, traveled around the country and talked to other youth pastors and youth leaders and ministry leaders on how to have vision, on how to really write down BHAGs, on how to really, what his core values and mission statement look like, just teaching on leadership. So I did that from 96 to about 2001. At that time, I got connected with a buddy of mine who was a former NBA basketball player, played overseas. We did motivational high school assemblies around the country. We went into schools, spoke to about 325,000 kids in a year. Came back home from that in like 01, started in the mortgage business with a friend of mine, got my broker's license, did that for about 8 or 9 years. Housing market crashed like 08, 09, and then went back into full-time vocational ministry and planted a church with just 2 or 3 couples, grew that to about 250, 275 people a weekend. And then from there, stepped out of that, moved to Alabama, to Birmingham, and started my real estate company. So now I do residential commercial real estate. And I did that by myself. Last year, I finished 7th out of 3,725 agents, top half of 1% in the largest, fastest growing real estate company in the state of Georgia. And from there said, you know what, I want to scale my team. And so I got my license in Alabama as well. And I'm building teams now. I'm with EXP. So I'm building teams in both states.
I'm going to ask you, there's 2 questions I want to ask there. I'll go back to one after, but where do you vision this company in 2-3 years? Do you want to continue to grow through different states?
No, I don't know that we're going to grow past this. The only reason I did this, to be honest with you, Jeff, is when I say I love helping people win, real estate is a way. If you work hard, if you hustle, if you view your clients, there's 2 lenses you do business in. Number 1's a transactional lens. Number 2 is a relational lens. And I'm a highly relational guy. And I tell my team all the time, listen, if you'll view your clients through a relational lens where you're adding value constantly to them, you'll make more money than you know what to do with. So my heart in starting my real estate team wasn't just to build this great business or this big team or this real estate conglomerate or none of that. I wanted to help friends who were struggling, making 50, 60, 70 grand a year, working 50, 60 hours a week. I wanted to teach them how to do 6 figures pretty easily and working 30, 40 hours a week. That was the reason for me starting my team.
That's awesome. Let's go back to, you said you gave your life to Christ at 25. Did you have an altering occasion or something in your life that put you in that mindset?
No, I didn't know. I wasn't raised in church. Didn't know anything about church. Didn't know anything about the Bible, really. I went to church. I was one of those Easter people, went to church on Easter maybe once a year. Didn't really know anything about church. My next door neighbor was a youth pastor at the church I was at. And a buddy of mine that I played softball with just about every weekend, they all went to the same church, man. Went to church August the 8th of 1993 was the first Sunday there. It was the first time I heard the gospel. Which we know is good news. I heard about what Jesus did for me, and 3 weeks later, man, made a decision to be a Christ follower. 2 Corinthians 5:17 was the very first scripture I ever memorized. It says, "Therefore, if anyone's in Christ, he's a new creation. Old things have passed away; behold, all things have become new." I had really a born again kind of transformation experience. I grew up in Pontiac, Michigan, right? So I was born in Detroit. Grew up in Pontiac. I know my accent doesn't say that because I part of my life I grew up in the South, but I grew up in a really rough neighborhood. And dude, my language, I was in the military. My language was terrible. And one of the things that was instant for me when I gave my life to Christ, August 22nd of 1993, was my language. I remember the week after I gave my life to Christ, my pastor asked me to come play basketball. I was scared. I was terrified. I'm like, dude, somebody's going to foul me. I'm going to hit somebody. I'm going to fight. I'm going to cuss them out. I'm going to call their mama the F word. I'm going to do. And dude, it was instantly. I remember coming home and I'll never forget it, getting in the car, driving home that day, talking to my wife going, man, I didn't cuss today at all on the basketball court. As a matter of fact, I don't know that I said a cuss word for 2 weeks. And it wasn't something I had to work on. It was something that through the power and the working of the Holy Spirit, it was instantly removed from my life.
That's interesting. What age did you get married at?
I got married in 91. I got married in 90. Met her in 91, got married in 92. I tell people I got saved in 93, or I probably would have gotten divorced in 94. So I was 24 years old, 23, 24 years old.
Quite young.
I got married. Oh my goodness, dude. I had no idea. I didn't have a clue. No clue.
Yeah. You guys are still happily together, I'm hoping?
Yeah. 27 years.
27 years. Time flies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very hard at that age to being in such a committed, strong relationship, right? And sometimes you need something, like you said, you giving yourself to Christ, which is the opportunity to put yourself in a better vision, a better light of what reality and what meanings of life truly is, right? How many children do you have? 4.
Got 4 daughters.
When was your firstborn? What age were you?
25. So actually I was 27. So she's 25 now. So 25, 21, 17, and 12 are how old my kids are. Yep.
So the gap between the last two are 12 and 17?
Yep. Yeah. 12 and 17. I turned 40 and my 12-year-old was born the next week. So if you do quick math, I'm 52.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah.
That was one of those, hey, by the way, we're having another baby. Yeah, all girls, man. My 25-year-old just got married January 2nd. So
hopefully sooner than later, you'll be a young grandfather.
Yeah, we'll see. They're both pretty focused. She just graduated from college. She's actually getting she just, as a matter of fact, yesterday they called me. And so she's applied to grad school. She's going to get her master's. She wants to teach. She does inner city work in Birmingham. That's where she wants. I took her to Haiti on a missions trip. It's probably the year or 2 years after the earthquake. I was in Haiti. I was in ministry then. I was in Haiti 5 days after the earthquake. We did a lot of relief work for about a week after the earthquake happened in Haiti. Big dude fell in love with Haiti. We still sponsor some children. I'm connected with an organization called Restore Haiti. They do a clothing, education, and feeding program in Jacmel and in Carrefour. So Jacmel's about 3 hours away from Port-au-Prince, and Carrefour was one of the hardest hit areas during the earthquake in like 2009 or 2010.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Yep. Do you want to give a little shout out to that charity just to let people know the name?
Yes, it's called Restore Haiti. And so my buddy Philip runs that. So Philip also is Philip actually manages a lot of Christian artists like Toby Mac, Mandisa. He manages them. He lives in Nashville, obviously. And he started Restore Haiti, and dude, they're doing an unbelievable work. I think they have about 500 or 600 kids in Jacmel that they do. And then they've got about another, I think 400 or 500 in Carrefour. So schooling, it's education, it's a clothing program, it's a feeding program. So we've been down there. I started taking my daughter when she was probably 14, 15 years old. And now she's 25, and she's always had a heart. Once I took her on the mission field, because you realize it's so, if you've never done mission work before, I've been to Colombia, I've been to Guatemala, I've been to obviously Haiti, even in inner city, even working in Atlanta at Safe House with the homeless people. I've done a lot of that. But when you go to Haiti and you see 4, 5, 6-year-old kids with no shoes, they're living, some of them with, a dirt floors, maybe brick walls with either tin, or some of them even have tarps over their head, and they're the happiest kids on the planet. They have no idea they shouldn't be happy at 4, 5, and 6 years old. It's absolutely amazing. So, and it's a game changer.
I've had that conversation with quite a few people, and not to that level, but when we were younger, before we had kids, every time we would travel to a hot spot or anywhere, we'd always grab a cab and just go out into the actual real city. And I remember once we were in Dominican, and we went up to the hills, and the taxi driver, I'm like, just take us around wherever you want to go. Let's get around. And he took us to a farm, and it was a mom with her 4 boys, and their house was maybe 100 square feet. But I remember all the kids outside were just always happy and joyful. And the taxi driver said this, and he said one thing. He goes, "One thing you'll see here," he goes, "they'll have the whitest whites, their clothes, and they always have a smile."
Yeah.
And it just touched home, because you get back to reality, get back to your home, and it's like everybody's always sad, everybody's always depressed, everybody's always wanting more. No one's ever content with what they have. And it's because we live in a world of abundance where it's like and it's getting worse and worse. Mm-hmm. Amazon. We're having this conversation about this Amazon yesterday. You put Amazon Prime, boom, it's here the next day. It's like you can't wait for nothing anymore. Everything is abundance. Everything has to happen on the spot, or we're not happy.
I call it the Orville Redenbacher mentality. We want it microwavable. We want it 10 minutes ago. Yeah. There is no process. There is no waiting. And so what happens, Jeff, is when we don't wait, it robs us from the joy of the work. It robs us of the joy of putting in the effort. And we want things to come easy. And the reality of it is I tell people, when you go on the mission field and you do missions work, it does more to the people who come from the United States and go do the missions work. It does more to that team and those individuals than it does the people that you go minister to.
I totally.
It's a game changer. It's a game changer for people when they go on the mission field.
What was it? What age were you you first went on your first mission?
I went to Colombia. I was probably went to Bucaramanga. Went to several cities there in Colombia. Probably 28, 29 years old, maybe 30. So it'd have been like 99. So 30, 31. Yep.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's incredible the effort that's put into obviously organizing on, but just like I said, just the impact it has on the people that do go and that actually take the leap of faith to go, like yourself. It just changes who you are as an individual for the rest of your life, right?
It gives you a perspective. You see how people live. Not that, I mean, I coach business owners how to make more money. I coach business owners how to gain confidence, how to find clarity, and how to create community. I mean, I teach business owners how to do more in their business. But the reality of it is if you don't have the flip side of that coin down and you understand you really do have a why and you understand it's fine to go make all the money you want to make, but there better be a reason why you want to make it. Because the reality of it is at 52 years old, I drive a Honda Civic. I can drive whatever I want. I mean, it's new. I mean, it's the sport version. You know, I've got a nice Breitling. I mean, I could drive whatever I want to drive. I just don't have a desire. There's just it doesn't move the needle for me anymore like I did 30 years ago when I was speaking on stages in front of thousands. And then I had my mortgage company, and I went from a Porsche one day to a convertible BMW to a Denali to, 4 or 5 watches that were 10 grand a piece. It just does not move the needle for me. What moves the needle for me right now is helping people win and helping people understand. Simon Sinek's most probably favorite or most famous book is Start With Why, helping people understand like what's that why, and helping people destroy and crush limiting beliefs so that they can go out and do more, but understanding just because you're doing more, you're a human being, not a human doing. So be a human, and then do with what you go out and you make, the finances you make, how you grow your business, like steward that really, really well. And one of the things we talk about at Growth Stack Drive is we view success through the lens of significance. So if I start out to be significant and take people along the journey with me and help people on my team win, I'm always going to find success. But if I start out to be successful, I may or may not trip over significance, and I'm probably going to leave a trail of damage behind me on the journey. And that was a mentor of mine. I spoke on a stage, 8,000 people back in 2001. And she set me down for lunch the next day. And this is what she said. She said, Ken, do you want to be significant or do you want to be successful? Because those two things are vastly different. And I said, explain.
It's a very powerful question.
Oh, my goodness. And I was 31, 32 years old, speaking in between two of the top people in like my heroes, right? And I'm speaking to a crowd of 8,000 people. It was a moment. It was a paradigm shift, transformational moment in my life.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, a lot of people don't ever, they can live their whole life and never have that clarity. And that's the sad part is a lot of people, it's funny because I just did a video the other day and I'm going to post it as we become older in our lives and we start looking at myself, I'm 44, but reality with the way life is, like, I know we have technology to live longer nowadays, but reality is I probably lived more than half my life. And then I look at both my parents where I'm very fortunate they're both still here. And I'm like, how much time do they have left? And you start appreciating and you start valuing time so much more. And then you start valuing what is money and what is the contributor of money? What are you using money for? Is it for freedom? If it is for freedom, are you actually using that as freedom? Do you take the time to spend with your loved ones? And that's the thing. I sit there and I coach entrepreneurial dads, and I sit there. And I'm like, half these guys, it's all about the next day of growth. It's not about sitting back and breathing and enjoying the time, because we could all walk out. We could all walk out and get hit by a car. And I loved what you said about the Civic, because I mean, same thing. I've done well for myself. I could drive nicer cars. I drive a Jeep Wrangler because it fits my lifestyle. I like going off-roading. It fits my lifestyle. So it's understanding what fits you and living in your world, not trying to live in a world to please other people. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's the biggest thing with social media, Ken, is everybody is trying to be who they're not. Mm-hmm. And it's because you get rewarded for that. Yeah.
Can I say this? The one thing you can't fake is authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah.
The transition for me going from being a youth pastor, a pretty successful youth pastor, and traveling around the country and speaking to other youth ministers and doing big conferences and stuff like that, from transferring into being a senior pastor at a church was easy for me. And I tell people this all the time. You can't fake teenagers. You can't fake authenticity of teenagers. I'm saying if you get up on a platform and you don't care about kids and you don't love kids, dude, they'll tune you out that quick. They sense a phony. Adults, dude, you can get up in front of an adult and speak to a congregation and you can wow them with all kinds of stuff. But teenagers, bro, they're like, this cat don't care about me. I'm not listening to him. Adults you can fake. You cannot fake authenticity. When you get around people, that's why guys like Anthony Trucks, and I know you, Anthony, is one of my, he's one of my favorite people on the planet because, dude, when you get around that cat with all the things that he's done, there is such a thread of authenticity that flows through his life and through his family. It's like, dude, this is a guy I got to know. When we do our live events, we've got a boot camp coming up in Scottsdale with like Sharon Lecter and Greg Reed. Anthony's going to be there. Brian Bogert's going to be there. I mean, I've got some Carlos Reyes. I've got some killers going to be there. Dude, every one of those people that come and speak at one of my boot camps, these are people that I'm not bringing them in because they're quote unquote big names and they've been successful in business, but I'm bringing guys in and girls in that I have relationship with we share that common bond of authenticity. Because when you're authentic and you get in front of a crowd and you go, hey, here's where we're at. Here's where I've been. People go, Ken, dude, you're really wise. I'm like, that's because I'm 52 years old and I made a lot of freaking mistakes. That's why. And I'm here for the same reason some of my mentors told me before, the same one that I mentioned earlier. She said, Ken, I'm here to have a 10,000-foot view of you and what's going on in your life so I can help you avoid the landmines and the potholes that are coming down the road ahead that you do not see. I've been there. And that's why when you get around those authentic people and you build authentic relationships, dude, people want to be around you.
Yeah. Yeah. I 1,000% agree. I love that. It's so true. And it's the world, I would say even the last 12 months since the pandemic really started has become very small. The networking, us meeting, you're meeting so many people, but you're also realizing very quickly who's authentic, who's not. Mm-hmm. And I've done 100 podcasts. I've probably done virtual coffees, maybe 500 in the last 12 months. And they're meeting people that are like, as we're talking, like I'm getting, like, I just want to hug you because just like you could tell you're authentic. And I love that because that's me. I hate being around fake people. I cut them out of my life very, very quickly. So, and there's a lot of them on social media, you know that better than anything, right? There's so many of them where they have this image and they pay their way to put themselves on this pedestal. That guy down here is like, wow, look at a guy up there. He's paid his way up there. He hasn't earned his way up there. He hasn't strived. It's true. And there's so many out there. There's so many out there. What got you into the mindset of joining the becoming a Grant Cardone licensee?
So I had no idea who Grant. Yeah, I had no idea who Grant Cardone was 15, 16 months ago. I was doing in September of 2019. I was doing real estate. I've been doing real estate, but I was bored to death. I umpire college baseball and I referee college basketball. As a matter of fact, I got a doubleheader this Saturday. I've got a D2 doubleheader in Birmingham. I've got Miles and Stillman. I've got a doubleheader this week. I was umpiring college baseball.
So you say you umpire or you coach?
No, I'm an umpire.
You look like an umpire.
Yeah, come on, man. I appreciate that. I don't know how good that is, if that's good or not. But I love the game, man.
I coached baseball. I just pulled out the last year because I'm very competitive, and I was coaching my son's traveling team, and I found that it was conflicting with my relationship with my son. And I said, I don't want this. So I pulled out so I could make sure our relationship is always strong. So I pulled out from the coaching side, but I coach, like, I'm like really certified as I know everything from arm. When it comes to baseball, I play baseball competitively all the way growing up. I thought I was going to make the majors. That obviously never happened, but I literally love baseball. I know everything about baseball. So I appreciate that. And you do look like an umpire. Sorry to say that.
I'm a big baseball. So here I am. I'm doing real estate, making about 10, 12 grand a month. I'm bored. I'm literally working 15 hours a week. Yeah. I'm bored to death. I'm on Instagram. I'm doing this thing, and here comes this ad for this crazy guy named Grant Cardone. Never heard of him before. Didn't know who he was. I'm like, who is this guy, and where did this cat get all this energy? Because I don't get around many guys who have the energy like I have. Yeah. And I'm like, who is this guy, right? So I start following him. About 2 weeks later, I find myself on a webinar on a Saturday. It's supposed to be 90 minutes. It's noon Eastern time. 2 p.m., he hasn't even come up for air. Like, he's just going. Dude, he's talking about why you need a coach and why you need this. And I'm taking notes. I'm like, oh my God, who is this guy? Like, this guy's in, like, he's going and going and going. And about 2 hours in, literally, he hasn't pitched it. He's supposed to go 90 minutes. He's 120 minutes in, hasn't even stopped. You want to talk about under-promising and over-delivering? I'm like, dude, I don't know what this guy's selling, but whatever he's about to pitch me at the end of this call, I'm buying. And so he pitched his $1,000 mentorship, 997. Pitched his $1,000 mentorship, but I pull my wallet out and I'm ready to roll. So I buy this mentorship. Monday night, I hop on a call. I'm working on a $3 million commercial deal as an agent. Largest deal I ever had, $78,720 commission. My largest single commission ever. I'm working on this real estate deal. Monday afternoon, my appraisal comes in short. So I get this call Saturday. I go into this mentorship on Monday night with Grant. He pitches boot camp in Miami in 3 days. It's a 3-day boot camp, 10X boot camp. It's like another $3 or $4 grand, right? And I'm like, why not? So I fly down to Miami 3 days later, and I'm in this boot camp in Miami all day Friday. By the end of the day on Friday, I'm like, where in the world has this been my whole life? Who is this guy? Like, this guy is so fired up. Like, there was something on the inside of me that literally, and this is what I told Grant the next month, back to about 6 weeks later, I was there in his office with about 12 other people from the mentorship because my business grew about 800% after I met him. I came back, got some one-on-one advice from Grant on how to structure this commercial deal. We got it closed because the deal was dead. I was representing the buyer. The appraisal came in at $2.625 million. We were $375,000 short. There was no agent on the seller side. It was an elderly Chinese guy who didn't speak English. And I had to go between him, his daughter was 22 years old, grad student at Georgia State. That was my representation. So I flew back in. Grant goes, buy the building. And I'm like, what? He goes, just buy the building. You overpay for it. Somebody will overpay for it when they buy it from your client. I'm like, okay. I called my client at 5:00 on Saturday. And I said, hey, Steve, I'm down here in Miami at this thing called 10X Boot Camp with some guy named Grant Cardone. He's an African businessman. He goes, oh, I love Grant Cardone. I've got money in Cardone Capital. I'm like, well, fantastic. Number one. Number two, how come you ain't telling me about this guy? So I fly back in. We negotiate a seller held second. I close it on Wednesday. I make $78,720. I close another $2 or $3 million the last 6-8 weeks. I made $130,000 like the last 6-8 weeks of the year. I doubled my income in 2 months by going down to boot camp. And then literally from there, it took off. I told Grant I got to share that story, long version, in front of his entire team down at 10X headquarters, December the 9th. And I told Grant in our small group, it was just Grant and about 10 of us. I said, when I came down to boot camp last month, it was like the businessman on the inside of me got born again. Like something triggered in me that had never, I owned a very successful mortgage company. I've done $250 million in real estate transactions over the past 20 years. I know how to do business, but something lit a fire under me that time with Grant that I've never experienced before. And literally, so I became a Grant Cardone licensee, spent $25,000 becoming a licensee. Grant's been super good to me, giving me platform, giving me opportunity on his Instagram lives, being able to speak. I've spoken down at 10X headquarters twice. To all the licensees one of those times and to his team another time. So it's been a phenomenal relationship, and he's really helped me. It has been just a confirmation of what's in my heart to be able to help people and help business people.
This has been a very short period then.
Yeah, I started Grow Stack Drive about 9 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've grown it into this year. Our goal is 1.35 million.
Good for you, man.
For the year.
Yep. Yeah, good for you. It just shows with the right, obviously persistence, the right mindset, and the right people around you, something can grow very rapidly, right? People get fearful of trying something new because they're scared of the long-term game. They don't think of it as a work ethic and the work put into it. With the right people around you could grow really rapidly. 9 months is pretty, I've done a lot since March. So I understand that it's just as long as you put the mindset to it, it just happens. And the people that are scared to work hard are the ones that just lag behind. And I think that's what happened for 2020.
Right.
the pandemic, it really separated.
It was a separator. You better believe it was.
People were here, and then all of a sudden it just went like here. And you have your top dogs now, and then you have your people who they're treading water to survive right now. And it's crazy to see how it's just altered and changed over the last few years. What does your wife mean to you when it comes to your support, your business, all that stuff?
Family for me is pretty much everything. Like it's, family to me, my daughters, especially. One of my goals I write down on my 10X planner is time with my girls. That's a huge, huge part of who I am and what I do. And you mentioned just a minute ago, and I don't want to change subjects, but I do a little bit. You mentioned just a minute ago about the persistence. One of the concepts that I teach on a lot is incremental, not monumental. Small daily disciplined decisions over time always yield monumental results.
Yeah.
I was on a call with Grant. I wasn't. There was 12 or 1,300 of us, on our mentorship call. We're on a call. He gives us homework. And he goes, I want you to ask 5 people to describe you in one sentence or one sentence or one word or whatever it was. So I text him and I'm like, hey, I got a question. So he calls on me in front of, 1,200 people. And it was him and Elena were sitting there. And I said, hey, real quick, since you and Elena are sitting there, Uncle G, this guy named Grant Cardone gave me some homework this week. And he asked me to ask 5 people. And since the 2 of you guys are together, would you be my first 2 people? And he just started laughing, right? He calls me preacher. He goes, ha, 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 preacher, you got me. And he goes, and I said, give me a 1 sentence. And this is what he said. He stopped and he said, Ken, every time, he goes, you're always here. Every time I look up, whether it be on one of our calls, whether it be at one of our boot camps, whether it be at one of our masterminds, whether it's your Instagram page, your social media, you're always in front of everybody else. You're always out there. And that is that principle of incremental, not monumental. That's that principle of, listen, every single day, if I will make small daily disciplined decisions over time, it's always going to yield me monumental results. Success cannot escape you if you'll do the right things. Especially, I said this last night on our call. We have about 4 dozen entrepreneurs in our group coaching program. We have calls on Monday morning at 8 and Wednesday nights at 8. And I said this last night. The days, because we talked about time last night. So time is, I've got 5 core values: passion, focus, intentionality, teachability, flexibility. Passion's how we attack our goals. Yep. Focus is how we dominate our calendar. I teach people how this is the number one thing. So we have so many time wasters. If I spend money, I did good at the poker table last week in Vegas.
I wasn't talking about. We're going to get into that in a bit. I still want to talk about.
I played me a little poker, so I had a few hundies. I won a few hundy playing poker. So I had some hundies, and I'm like handing it out on my Instagram Live the other day. I can spend all my money. Guess what I can do? I can bang the phones. I can go make more money. But when I spend my time, it's gone forever. Yeah. This is what I told our people last night. The days when you get up and you don't feel like doing it are the days you gain more momentum than when the days you do feel like it.
100%.
The days you don't feel like putting in the work or getting the grind or that incremental, not monumental concept are the days that you gain more momentum. It doesn't feel that way at the time. It's just like going to the gym. Like if I don't feel like going to the gym, dude, when I'm done with the gym, I feel like I can conquer the freaking world that day. Because I'm like, dude, I just did something I didn't want to do. Like I just busted my ass and I didn't feel like busting my ass, but I did it anyway. Those are the days you gain more momentum.
Those small wins. Win.
Think first downs, not touchdowns.
Yeah.
Think first downs, not touchdowns. Move the ball 10 yards down the field. Yeah. It's stacking wins.
It's a domino effect, right?
It's
every
exactly
day
right.
one domino falls and you just keep the progression going, keep the steamroll going, right? And I appreciate that. It's exactly what it is. So let's get back to my question. Your wife.
Yeah.
How has she been supportive wise? Because I always ask this because, and I'll give you a little example of myself. And I think we talked about this on your podcast a bit, is I've been married for going on to 18 years. I still don't have a bank account with my wife. We have separate bank accounts. She's very independent. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. And I try to get her to work for my companies for years. She refuses to. She says that'll be the quickest way for us to be divorced. So she does her own stuff, and we're happy that way. We have a great, but we understand our time with our family is very important. We both mm-hmm. block our schedules together for family time. Mm-hmm. How is that? Because you have traveled, you are busy, you're on stage, you're going to Grant's head off. You're always mm-hmm. going. How important has your wife's support, and how have you found the time to keep that balance going?
You have to be super intentional. Like I said, focus is one of my core values. That's how I dominate my calendar. Number one, you have to be super intentional. And I'll say this, from my experience and being in ministry, 12 or 13 years full time, I've never seen a marriage where two people aren't willing to work on their issues, not the other person's issues. Like you can't get in a marriage or relationship and go, hey, Jeff, you need to change this. Hey, Jeff, you need to change this. Hey, Jeff, I really don't like it when you do fill in the blank. You really have to. I've never seen a marriage where two people aren't willing to work on their issues, their own issues. I've never seen that marriage not thrive, not one time. But on the flip side of that coin, I've never seen a marriage where one person goes, I'm not touching that. I can't do it. It's too painful. It's too hard. I don't think I can do it. I've never seen that marriage either, number one, survive, or number two, I've never seen it bear good fruit. There's always some issues in that, if that makes sense. And so you have to, as an individual, as a husband, as a wife, you have got to put yourself in position where you say, hey, what do I need to work on? And teachability is my third core value. And that is, or that's my fourth. Teachability is my fourth core value. We're not only open to feedback, but we actively pursue feedback. I did a baseball game a couple years ago with my buddy named Jay Pierce. So Jay is now he is a minor league instructor. I think single A and double A. Yeah. He's a minor league instructor. He worked in the minor leagues for a long time, got all the way up into triple A, I think, for 5 years. A cup of coffee in the big leagues. He worked a few big league games in spring training, stuff like that. We're working a college game together. I brought him a pencil and a little pad when we did our first college game together about 3 years ago. I handed it to him. I said, Jay, anything you see today, write it down. I want to know. So about every half inning, Jay would walk down and he'd meet me in between whatever line I'm on, second, in between first and home and third, or home and first, depending on who's, bottom or top of the inning. And Jay would walk down and he'd go, hey, when you do strike, instead of going all the way to the dugout, I want you to give me a little 45. Hey, that foul ball we had down the line, I don't want you to immediately run all the way to the fence. I want you to take 3 or 4 steps, watch the fielder, see where he's going, because that wind may carry the ball back. Just small little things every half inning. About the 5th inning, Jay walks up, and this is like, you don't do this in college baseball. Yeah. Like the umpires never get together and talk. Like I've got a doubleheader Saturday. I may not see my partner or talk to my partner until we get back in the locker room in between games or at the end of the second game. We never talk to each other unless we have a problem with the coach, unless we have a problem with the players. Then we'll get together. Or if we have a play where I have to get some help on the play, swipe tag. Hey, Ken, what do you got? I don't have anything. That's the only time we get together. Jay walks in the 5th inning. That's what he says. He goes, Ken, are you okay if I walk down here every half inning and give you information and help you? I said, Jay, if you told me to spin on my head on home plate during the 7th inning stretch, I would do whatever you tell me to do because you've been where I want to go. And that really is the definite. And I was 49 years old, and that's just 3 years ago. Yeah. And we got done, and he goes, dude, I've never had somebody tell me that. And I said, listen, you're never going to work with anybody that's as teachable as I am. Whatever you tell me to do, Brad Lee. I was with Brad this weekend. Brad was talking about my content and our stuff. He goes, Ken, are you okay? I said, listen, Brad, whatever you tell me to do, you're the expert. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do. Like, short of changing what I believe in my content, but whatever you tell me to do and how you tell me to market, I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do. It's amazing. So I think in the marriage, in business, in life, you have to embrace being teachable. You have to embrace having the opportunity to have people be able to speak into your life and then acting on the information and the knowledge that they give you.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. And there's so much layers to that too, right? With yourself, let's dive into 2 things here. Off topic, umpiring. You're doing college ball now. Mm-hmm. How do you obviously have a passion for it? Would you want to get into like a single A, double A, eventually umpire at that level?
Yeah, it's different now. So when you go to umpire school, there's 2 schools right now. I think there's 2. You've got to be young. You've got to be young because they're looking for guys. They're not looking for guys who can just go do single A, double A. They're looking for guys. And that's a very, 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 and I've got 2 or 3 young guys that I mentor and talk to probably at least every other week that are in single A or double A right now. and it's a grind. It's a big time grind. So, but I do write down in my planner every week, D1 baseball. I do want to work Division I baseball, and would have had an opportunity in 3 years to do that last year had COVID not hit. Last year, I got into 2 Division II conferences, had some Division II weekends in the South, and literally the Tuesday, everything got banged because of COVID. My first D2 series at Lee University in Tennessee was that weekend. I had Lee University in West Georgia at Lee University, and it got banged because of COVID. So, but that is a goal. That is a goal. I write it down on my 10X planner every single day. I actually write it down twice a day. D1 baseball. I want to work Division I baseball.
Yeah, Division I. We have. I'm part of the local board for baseball here, and I'm heavily involved in the baseball world. And we have a couple boys that from here that they're playing D1 schools up there. So it's a different world. The D1 level is a different world altogether, man. It's so much fun, so much fun. So there's a few things we had talked about last time. Let's talk about. You said this weekend you played poker. That was a big part of your life.
Yes, it was.
Do you still dabble in it at the odd time, or is just?
Man, I probably have played. Obviously, during my ministry time, I didn't do it at all. So from probably May of 07, for probably about 10 years, I didn't play at all. I was just focused on ministry, and those two worlds are, they really don't mix a lot. And so I said, hey, listen, this is something I'm gonna walk away from. Didn't have a problem walking away from it. So if I get an opportunity. I love it. I love the game. It's the only thing, if you go to a casino, it's really the only game where you're playing against other people and you're not playing against the house. Because unless you're a really, 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 really good blackjack player, there's a reason casinos look so good. Because they build them with your money. So you're not going to walk into a casino and be able to live off being a professional gambler. That's very difficult. Poker's a little different. I love it. Had a great time this weekend. Won a few $100, and I love competing against guys. I love reading people. I love the math part of poker. I competed in the World Series of Poker, cashed a couple times. I've cashed in some pretty big tournaments back in the day, back in 04, 05, 06, when Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker. Everything got big. It was on ESPN. For me, it's whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to be the best at it. Like, I don't care if I'm youth pastoring, if I'm playing poker, if I'm umpiring, if I'm building businesses, if I'm coaching, I'm going to be the best. I don't want to be everything I do. I love to do with the spirit of excellence. I want to be the best. And I'll tell you the number one reason people ask me this question: how have you grown your businesses so fast? How have you done this? In baseball, how did you go from not being in college baseball to literally 3 seasons having a shot to be on a D1 roster, non-conference roster last year? It's because I hang around with the guys that are the best. One of my best friends was in the big leagues, did 500 games in the big leagues. Yeah. Another one of my friends has been in the big leagues for 20 years. I got guys like Jay Pierce, so I can pick the phone up and call and ask them questions. Grant Cardone, if I want to call down to the office and speak with Jared or one of the guys there, Coach Michael Burt, Anthony Trucks, Sharon Lecter. I was at Sharon's house 6 weeks ago walking through this boot camp that I'm doing. She's a co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. How much wisdom. I tell people, it's like sitting at the table with the wisest grandmother you've ever talked to in your entire life. For 2 hours, I sat at her dining room table and just talked and asked questions and listened to what she had to say.
It's so crazy, the value of that. People do not
all
realize.
About relationships.
Yeah.
It's 100% about relationships. Yeah. If you want to go, people say there's no shortcuts in business. Yes, there is. Get around the right people. Yeah. There's no shortcuts to success. Yes, there is. Get around the right people. Learn from their mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes. That's why I coach business owners.
Yeah, no, I 1,000% agree. And a huge part of what I do is I love the networking. That's something for the last 10 months and that's how we connected. It just, the networking aspect of it is so powerful. And whether you build a relationship, I'm the type of person where even if there's nothing to happen besides our original, I will look at you and I'll be like, and we talked about this, I think before, I'll look at you and maybe a month from now, I'll be like, I meet somebody else. I'm like, Ken will be a perfect connection, and I'll connect you to. And the reason I do that is no matter what, if you guys take off and create 4 or 5 other companies and become best friends for life, who's your anchoring point? I'm always your anchoring point.
That's exactly
so it's just stuff like that are so valuable. And then all of a sudden, I like, even everybody I've had on my podcast, everybody, once a month, I'll just shoot them a message. Hey, Ken, what's up, brother? How are you? How's life treating you? How's the family? It's just keeping that relationship going. Just keep the door open, because you never know when opportunity comes to work together. And when that opportunity comes, you don't want to lose it. And a lot of people build that relationship and they're so busy with their life and they're like, oh, next. They don't take that 3 seconds to send a text or a message, right? And say, hey, what's up? This has been awesome, brother.
That's because they're focused on transaction, not relationship. When you're focused on relationship, you get out of bed in the morning. There are 2 types of people. There are thermostats and thermometers. Thermometers walk in a room and they gauge the temperature of a room.
Yeah.
Thermostats walk into a room and they have the ability to be able to change the culture and the climate of any room they walk in.
I'm gonna use that.
It's not mine. I stole it from somebody else. I don't know who I got it from 20 years ago, but it's not mine. But they have the ability and they have the desire. Passionate leaders are intentional in adding value.
Yeah.
How do you add value to people? When you do what you do or you do what I do, it's easy because, dude, I want people to know who Jeff Lopes is. You know, we got connected, I think, Brian Bogert or Anthony Trucks or Justin Sink. So one of that crew got us connected. And so that's really the way. They say you're only 1 or 2 relationships away from a breakthrough. And if I can be the connector, like you said just a minute ago, dude, if I can help connect you with somebody else and it's a breakthrough moment for you or your business, dude, I sleep good at night. It's called fulfillment. I don't have to have something out of that.
I love that. Yeah. No, so true. I love that. This has been awesome. Quick question before we go. I never have, actually 2 questions. One, have you took pen to paper to start writing your book yet? Did we talk about this last time?
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's sitting, if I shared my screen right now, it's called As the Leader Grows. And it says, that right there says, As the Leader Grows, draft. So I have an appointment with a copywriter tomorrow. She's going to walk through and kind of do what they do. So so the goal is we've been doing pre-sales on it for, I don't know, about a month or so.
Oh, you have already? Awesome.
Yeah. We haven't really pushed it, but it's done. I've got my boot camp in Scottsdale, April 23rd through the 25th. My goal is to have one of those in my hand before or when we get there that weekend.
That's awesome. So, that's awesome. And when did you start the process for this book? How long ago?
Probably started the process or got serious about the process.
Serious.
Probably got serious about the process about 3 weeks ago. 3 or 4 weeks ago. When I did my boot camp in Nashville in January, we already had the artwork done. I knew what the kind of the crux of the meat of the book was going to be about, which is it's similar. It kind of mirrors the courses that I have. Yeah. And so this is something that we're going to use for it'll be obviously you buy it, but it'll be a giveaway. It'll be something that we give away.
That's what I did with my book. It was just it was funny because I released our book on this 2 weeks ago Monday, and I didn't want to tell anybody for the first 4 or 5 days. We had a whole marketing team behind it, but I didn't want to tell them because I don't want my mom going on and buying 30 more million copies. And so I just wanted to see, and we ended up it was through Amazon. It was through the digital, but we ended up with, in 5 days, a little close to 3,000 purchased digital downloads. So we got number 1 in 11 categories in the first week, which is pretty cool. And
tell your mom if she wants to come buy 30 copies of mine, she can. I don't care.
It's just you know it is with the book. It's more of a stature and just add value to when you have something to give away and add value to what you do and offer. So I love that. One question I ask all our guests at the end, and if something were to happen to you today, Ken, in a few words, how would you want to be remembered or described by your loved ones?
He always believed the best in people. He always saw potential in people. That's what I do. Whether it was people go, do you miss pastoring churches? I tell people all the time, I do as much ministry now as I did before.
Yeah.
To and with people that would never walk into my church on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Because they're just not coming. They're so jaded. I mean, I was on Brad Lee's podcast this weekend. We talked the first 20 minutes about church. He was asking me tons of questions. Like when that Dropping Bombs episode comes out with Brad, the first 20 or 30 minutes we talked about, he was asking me theological questions. Yeah. And I just said, Brad, listen, the difference between religion and Christianity is huge. And even Christianity, I don't even say Christianity. I like using the words Christ follower because Christianity is not in the Bible. That word, they called them Christians first at Antioch because they acted like Jesus. The problem is we got a country of people who say they're Christians. 84% of our people, it's a little lower than that. It's like in the 70s. identify as Christians, but we don't act like Jesus. Jesus was a servant leader. He put other people's needs before his own. He did things without being asked. And he did things right the first time. Those are the three things I've been teaching my kids for 25 years. Like he was the definition of servant leadership. And so I would love for people to be able to say, man, that he believed the best and he saw the best in people. And he was able to call that out of them. Like, hey, there's more in you than you know is in you. There's potential in there that's untapped that you don't realize. That if you'll dig deep, I promise you can live a life, not just of finances, but a life of fulfillment like you never expected or never dreamed you could live before.
I love that. How can our audience get a hold of you?
At Ken Joslin, KenJoslin on Instagram. Would love to connect with you there. GrowStackDrive.com. GrowStackDrive, GROW, Stack, STACK, Drive, DRIVE.com. That's it, man.
This is awesome. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been a
You're welcome,
pleasure,
bro.
and I'm looking forward to our relationship to continue from here on. So I appreciate you, brother.
Most definitely.
That's a wrap for today. I want to thank our guest, Ken Joslin, for taking time with his busy schedule to be a guest on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. Great conversation. If you guys enjoyed this as much as I did, please spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family, leave a review. 5 stars would be absolutely amazing. Until next week, guys, keep moving forward.